Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivinoda. We're reading from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, Chapter 1, the Spiritual Masters, text number 1. Is that right? We have it written on the board? There is no board. No. Okay. Vande Guru Nisha Bhaktan Isham Ishvavatarakam Tat Prakashams Tat Shakti Krishna Caitanya Samgyakam. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual masters, the devotees of the Lord, the Lord's incarnations, His plenary portions, His energies, and the primeval Lord, Krishna Caitanya. Vande Shri Krishna Caitanya, Nityananda Sahoditao, Gauda Gododaye Pushpanvanto Shiro Sando Tamonudao. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna Caitanya and Lord Nityananda, for like the sun and moon, they have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. Yad Advaitam Brahmod Panushadi Tad Apyasya Tanuba. I don't know if it fits in Brahma. Yad Advaitam Brahmod Pashadi Tad Apyasya Tanuba. Ya Atmantar Yami Purushas Iti So Syamsya Vibhava. Chad Aishvaryai Purno Ya Iha Bhagavan Swaswayam Ayam Chaitanyat Krishna Jagati Paratattvam Param Iha. What the Upanishads described as the impersonal Brahman is but the effulgence of his body, and the Lord known as the Super Soul is but his localized plenary portion. Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, full with 6 opulences. He is the absolute truth, and no other truth is greater than or equal to him. Anarpitam Sharim Sharat Kuruna Yavitirna Kalo Samarpaitum Ujvala Udnatvala Jarasam Svabhakti Shriyam Hariparata Sundara Yuti Kandamba Sandipitaha Sadaridaya Kandare Spuratuva Sachinandanaha. May the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Sachi Devi, be transcendently situated in the innermost chambers of your heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has appeared in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow upon what no other incarnation has ever offered before, the most sublime, radiant mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. I don't think we'll get to a purport. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatunde Ve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskadyade Satarne. These are all very significant verses. Actually, we could give a class in each one of these verses. Generally, we give classes when there's a purport. But purports will come later on because these verses are introductions. and then the verses are explained. The Chaitanya Charitamrita is an explanation of these verses. Unfortunately, we can't read the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita today. But it's beginning with that Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, they've appeared in Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance. Anarpita charim charat karunaya vatirna kalo samarpayitim ujvalata swabhakti rasam shriyam. And they're bestowing what they haven't given for a long time. That is Krishna Prema. And how are they giving Krishna Prema? Principally by their example and by their instructions. In our verse here, when we sing the Guru Vastika, the prayers, Sri Guru Padma, actually the translation should be that he reveals transcendental knowledge within the heart, and it's the transcendental knowledge that bestows prema bhakti and destroys ignorance. In other words, the transcendental knowledge being received through the disciple succession is what bestows upon us prema bhakti and destroys our ignorance. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is bestowing upon us transcendental knowledge, as he did to Rupa Goswami, because Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he's a disciple of Lord Nityananda, because Lord Nityananda revealed himself to Krishnadas Kaviraj after Krishnadas Kaviraj had chastised his brother for disrespecting Nityananda Ramdas. What was his name? Sriniketa Ramdas. His brother was Miniketa Ramdas. Miniketa Ramdas was a great devotee of Lord Nityananda, ecstatic devotee, and he came to the house of the brother of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. His brother had a higher priest there who was doing the deity worship. When Miniketa Ramdas came to the house, the priest didn't show him any respect because he was doing arti. And Miniketa Ramdas, when he saw that he was not being offered any respect, he realized that actually the brother of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he had faith in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he had no faith in Lord Nityananda. And Miniketa Ramdas took as an insult against Lord Nityananda. He broke his flute and went away. At this time, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami chastised his brother, his name is Gurunanav Mishra, and said that if you have faith in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if you have no faith in Lord Nityananda, it's like the philosophy of accepting half a hen. The philosophy is that there's a part of the hen that eats the food, and it's very costly. But there's a part of the hen that gives the egg, and that's very good because it's productive. So rather than wasting your money on giving the hen grains, better to cut that part off and just keep the part that gives the egg. But as we know, it doesn't work. Similarly, to respect Lord Chaitanya and disrespect Lord Nityananda is like the same philosophy. And he warned his brother that certainly he'd fall down. And indeed, his brother did fall down because of his disrespect to Lord Nityananda. In any case, Lord Nityananda appeared in a dream to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and told him to go to Vrindavan. And when he was in Vrindavan, and he went to Vrindavan, there he spoke with these Goswamis, such as Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and he got the opportunity to associate with Raghunath Das Goswami, who was a personal associate of Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, he got the history of the Chaitanya Charitamrita that we're reading now. Of course, by his service to the great personalities, he also realized the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And therefore he's beginning the Chaitanya Charitamrita by offering respects to Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda for appearing over Gauda and bestowing, just like the sun and the moon, and bestowing upon this age Krishna prema by their process of especially hearing and chanting about Krishna. And although this has been given before, it's not the first time Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya have appeared. Anarpitam charim charat karuna yavachara kirno kalo. He doesn't appear in every Kali Yuga. As we know, there are enormous time cycles and enormous lengths compared to our length of time, of the time cycles of the ages, that in one day of Brahma there are 14 manus and there are so many yugas, 72 Mahayugas in each day of Manu. Therefore, when you add it all up together, there are 4,300,000,000 of our solar years in one day of Brahma. So, if Brahma takes a nap for 10 minutes, that's like millions and millions of years of our lifetime. So don't feel bad if you waste an hour or two. Imagine how Brahma must feel when he wastes an hour or two. And for all this time, Lord Chaitanya doesn't appear. He only appears once in a day of Brahma. So every 4,300,000,000 years multiplied by 2, which is 8,600,000,000 years, once during that time, for 48 years, he appeared. Therefore, it's quite an unusual opportunity to get the chance, because he only appeared 500 years ago, which is, in cosmic time, is very small compared to 8,600,000,000 years. It's quite recent. And he appears just after the appearance of Krishna. Krishna appeared also 5,000 years ago, and he only appears once every day of Brahma in this universe, every 8,600,000,000 years. Therefore, he's also quite recently, he's appeared. And of course, Prabhupada has appeared to spread the message of Krishna consciousness. So they're bestowing their mercy. What's the difference? Because in every Kali Yuga, there's also an incarnation who's chanting the holy name. Chanting the holy name is not only for this Kali Yuga, but for every Kali Yuga. Therefore it says that Kritet Hadarito Vishnu Tretayam Paricharyam Jagnito Mukai Dwarpayam Paricharyam Kalotadari Kirtana. So in every Kali Yuga, in every Satya Yuga, the process is to meditate directly upon Krishna. But obviously we can't do that because our minds are quite disturbed in Kali Yuga. We can't meditate on anything except for sense gratification. We seem to be quite good at that. One can think of sense gratification 24 hours a day without any deviation. But when it comes time to thinking about Krishna, it's quite a difficult task. The mind wants to get back to its normal process of thinking of sense gratification. Therefore, it's not recommended to directly try to think about Krishna because we can't do it. And in Treta Yuga, then Jagnito Mukai, performance of great sacrifices. But in order to perform such sacrifices, one would have to be able to at least have someone who can chant the mantras correctly. The mantras correctly means that when you say to light the fire, then the fire actually gets lit. Nowadays we have hard time sometimes even lighting it with matches, what to speak with mantras. It means that when you sacrifice the animal, then the animal by chant immediately becomes revived out of the fire, walks out of the fire, even after you sacrifice him, when you chant the mantra. then you can begin the sacrifice, because then the priests have some qualification. But who can do that in this age? I don't know anyone. Therefore, the sacrifices, our fire sacrifices, are more or less to show. They're better to perform in the winter because at least they add some heat to the temple. Otherwise than that, they're not really very valuable. And in Dwapara Yuga, there is temple worship. Of course, it's not our style of temple worship. It would be very elaborate temple worship with precise offerings done at precise times and with complete cleanliness and punctuality and reverence and huge buildings. So this was temple worship, worshiping the deity. But in this age, most people can come to the temple because there's not enough temples, and the temples in most parts of the world are not so attractive, at least not in India. They've neglected temple worship because it requires a tremendous effort to maintain the temples. Nor do we have qualified priests for the sacrifice, nor do we have the opulence necessary, the gold, the jewels, the ghee, to actually perform the sacrifice correctly. And nor do we have the mental strength to meditate upon Krishna. Therefore, the chanting is always recommended. The difference is that in Kali Yuga, in previous Kali Yugas, people would chant, but most people would not get liberation from the chanting. They chant because they knew unless they chanted that they wouldn't even get anything to eat. There wouldn't be no rain. It was without the sacrifice of that age, without performing it, then the demigods don't bestow their benedictions. One has to perform sacrifice at least to get something to eat. Anad bhavati bhutani parjana anasambhava. We may imagine that things are going on automatically, but they're not going automatically. For the rains to come in the proper quantity to be able to grow food, that requires sacrifice. There may be too much in some places, and too little, that's a sign of lack of sacrifice, or the karmic activities rather than sacrifice. So of course in this age people don't worry about those things because no one's growing any food. Therefore they concerned, they think that by the scientific endeavor, scientific process, that the scientists will create food out of nothing. They'll transform everything into food. They'll take, Prabhupada said even World War II, that they worked on how to convert stool into food. So, eventually they think that will happen. If worse comes to worse, we'll pass stool, we'll put it into the machine, and when they'll come out, it's our breakfast. Fresh. So, they're imagining like that. They don't have to rely upon the laws of nature. They can do whatever they want and everything will be all right. But without rain, without the demigods showing their mercy, the basic elements like rain and sunlight and fresh water and wind, that will not be available. Without those things, even basic necessities of life, like food and air, will not be available. And what to speak of water. Therefore, it's necessary to perform sacrifice, but the difference is that in this age, not only the Sankirtan movement can bestow the sacrifice, by sacrifice we can get the necessities of life, but at the same time, by chanting Hare Krishna, following the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers, then we can become absorbed in the feelings of separation from Krishna and his associates in Vrindavan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was constantly feeling separation, vipralamba seva, and therefore he was relishing the association with Krishna in that feelings of separation. And by getting Lord Chaitanya's association, we can also experience the same ecstasy. But in order to get Lord Chaitanya's mercy, and therefore be able to experience the feelings of separation that he has from Vrindavan, then one has to serve him because it's all in the mood of service. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not simply an official meditator, but he was in the mood of meditation due to his intense desire to serve Krishna and his devotees. And service to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu means to serve Lord Nityananda. Lord Nityananda represents the principle of service to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and his service was principally to distribute love of Godhead to others. Lord Nityananda didn't sit around in his bhajan kutir and meditate upon Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He actively engaged in preaching, going door to door and telling people that Bola Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, Koro Krishna, Shika. Chant Krishna's name, worship Krishna, and follow Krishna's instructions. So this is service. Krishna had said that 5,000 years ago. Ya idam paramanguyam mad bhaktesh vabhadashiti bhakti mai puram kritva mame vaishati samshayaha. And in this world, one who preaches my message, he's the most dear to me. First, Krishna says, surrender, think of me, become my devotee, worship me, offer your homage unto me. The result is that you'll come to me. Then he says, give up everything and do this. Just don't think of me sometimes, but give up everything and surrender to me and become perfect in this. But who will not take this up? He says, idam nate tapaskaya nabhaktaya kadachana nacha shushushu evacham nacham yo besuyate. The one who's not austere, one who's not a devotee, one who's envious of Krishna, they can't take, then Krishna advises us not to preach to them. But he does advise us to preach to the innocent people, to make them into devotees, to tell them systematically the science of Krishna consciousness. That this is service. Krishna said that 5,000 years ago, and then he repeated the same thing in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he said, Yari Deka Tari Kaha Krishna Upadesh Amaya Agaya Guruhana Tare Desh. Whoever you meet, you try to tell them something about Krishna. So Lord Nityananda represents that principle of preaching, and he's also the original spiritual master. And therefore, the spiritual master is supposed to enliven his disciples to not only hear and chant about Krishna, but to go out and tell other people about how nice it is to hear and chant about Krishna and to serve him. At least tell them, if you don't want to serve Krishna, then I hope you don't want to eat, because you won't be able to eat after some time, at least that much. Or you will be able to eat, but you'll have to eat your friends. At the end of Kali Yuga, that's what it says, that if you don't want to take to the sacrifice of chanting the holy names, then you may be sacrificed in someone's backyard. Therefore, Lord Nityananda and his representatives teach us to go out to try to convince others that everyone has a relation with Krishna. It is not that only the Hare Krishna's sect, a few people in the Hare Krishna sect, that they have some relationship with this cowherd boy in Vrindavan, but that everyone has a relation with Krishna. Everyone is eternally related to Krishna. Some people understand that and can appreciate it. Some people have even realized it and are carrying on their relation with Krishna. Others are simply dreaming that they don't have a relation with Krishna. And that relation with Krishna is the most valuable thing that anyone can have, because it's the very essence of what everyone's looking for, namely full consciousness of happiness forever. That without our relationship, without being aware of our relation with Krishna, there can't be any real knowledge, nor can there be any real happiness, nor can there be anything that's permanent in our lives. Everything is miserable, everything is ignorant, and everything is temporary. Therefore, only if we have a relation with Krishna is our life meaningful, and without that, everything is meaningless. Therefore, the devotees have to become convinced like that by personal experience, and then go out and tell other people that this is the most valuable thing. Everything else is shrama, eva hi kevala, just a waste of time. So Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda and their associates, they come here to bestow that knowledge upon us. Although they don't do it very often, but they come once in a day of Brahma, and therefore we have the fortunate opportunity to take advantage of it. Otherwise, then one must be considered the most unfortunate person. So we'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions?
Zealots, religious zealots, and so forth. And
I haven't read so much about that. They're usually mostly about wars and murders, and hardly anything about religious zealots.
yeah.
Okay.
And so some people are getting the idea that religion is the source of the problems in the world and not the solution, like we're saying. And
Well, first people have to become religious, and then we can find out whether it's actually a problem. Yeah.
go ahead. What do you say?
Well, first of all, people aren't religion. Religion means to follow the laws of God. Let them find out what God wants them to do and follow them, then we can see if it creates a problem or not. People may claim that they're religious, just like here in this country, they claim they're Christians, but unfortunately they don't follow Lord Jesus Christ's instructions. For instance, thou shalt not kill. They become very expert at killing, not only the animals, but their own children and other people too. So that's not religious. They're irreligious, but they may claim they're religion. I may claim that I'm the good fairy, but I can't act like the good fairy. I may claim so many things, but by my actual activities you can see whether or not I am what I claim to be. Therefore, the people, they criticize religion, but unfortunately, or the followers of religion, but let them first find real followers of religion, the laws of God, then see if that causes a problem or not. Just because in the Middle East, the Christians who are going over there are criticizing the Muslims for not following, what do they follow? They just had a holiday, Thanksgiving, and to give thanks to God, they kill unlimited number of animals. So, I'm sure if you did a survey amongst the turkeys, they wouldn't really consider it's a Holocaust for them. Yeah, so when a turkey dies, that the pain he feels, that soul feels, is equal to the pain that anyone else who dies. Therefore, the slaughter of the turkeys is a Holocaust. It's even greater than the Holocaust. The pain that they inflict and that they'll have to be afflicted by. So that's not religion. Religion, the basic principle of religion is that everyone is the servant of God. But they don't recognize it. Therefore, they're irreligion. They're vikarma. They're not even karmis. They're vikarmas. Unfortunately, the people who are making these claims, they themselves are sinful rascals. So. Therefore, they don't want people to become religious because their business is their religion themselves. But Prabhupada said if you light a match in a dark room, the darkness can't put the match out. Therefore, if we actually become religious and distribute real religious principles, then Prabhupada said the whole civilization could be turned around, or it could be actually made into a civilization. Other than that, there's so much false propaganda going on. The whole Kali Yuga is just being filled with one lie after another. We heard, how do you know if an American president is lying? As you all know, because you can see his lips moving. So this is Kali Yuga. People who criticize, if you buy a pice, 2 pice or 5 pice sacred thread, then you claim you're a Brahmin because you're wearing a 5 pice sacred thread. Doesn't matter what you do, you're still a Brahmin. Yeah.
I don't know if this is appropriate, but let me try. Having a really terrible realization about myself that after so many years, I'm just a pretender, and I'm very.
Well, at least we're trying to pretend the right thing.
Okay, is that what? Okay, thank you. Then also, I'm asking on behalf of somebody else that I just spoke to this morning who's suffering very badly, and I'm going to keep the person anonymous. She's just found out that a very close friend of hers that is cultivating her in Krishna consciousness is actually saying very, very painful things about her behind her back. And the other person is male, and she is female. So it's quite painful because she's attached to this person in a very pure way, wanting to help this person go back to Godhead. And then she's finding out that after all the service she's done, many years and donations and money supporting this person and helping them to come to Krishna, that this person actually does not like her and has no intentions of really developing the relationship. Do you have any comment?
Chant Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Don't be attached to all these mundane relationships. Better be attached to Krishna. Everyone is represent Pitaham Asya Jagato Mata Data Pitamaha Vedam Pavitramam Kara Riksama Eva Yaja Cha. That I am the father, Pitaham, I'm the grandfather, Pitaham Asya Jagato, Mata Data, I am the mother, the father, the well-wisher. It's all Krishna. Therefore, become attached to Krishna. Then you won't be disappointed. But if you forget about Krishna and become attached to mundane relationships, then of course you'll be disappointed. So that's good. Because maybe it'll inspire you to actually take shelter of Krishna rather than this mundane relationship. Yeah, sure. Yeah, don't think yourself to be the doer, and recognize that Krishna is approaching us in many different ways and appreciate people. But if they themselves are having some difficulty, that we shouldn't give up Krishna. They've given us service because they've acted as an instrument for Krishna. We should appreciate it, but it's Krishna who's approaching us through them. Yes. Do you have a question, Narada?
Thank you for the nice class, Marge. It's really a pleasure to hear from you. My question is, just a few days ago, there was a news report about a group of Hindus that were referred to as Hindu devotees, and they performed a sacrifice where they've slaughtered over 200,000 animals in the name of Hinduism. It's in the news. And, with these huge, machete-like swords, they're killing water buffaloes and chickens and goats. And it was filmed. And, the reporters who were paid to film this, were just completely shocked by it and feel that Hinduism is something, which is very bad after seeing that. No.
Yeah, I guess if we can find out what Hinduism is, then we can find out whether it's good or bad. But obviously that's not, we're not, first of all, in one sense, probably sometimes referred to us as Hindus. Sometimes, usually not. But in any case, what does that have to do with Hinduism, slaughtering animals?
Well, the devotees have an opportunity to comment on this, both on the radio.
It has nothing to do with where in the scriptures say you should slaughter animals like that. These people are just crazy, that's all. What's that? Yeah, they're not even Kali worshippers. Kali is not going to accept it either. But they're just crazy people. What does it have to do with...
That's my
So
question.
just like when the America goes over drops millions of tons of bombs and kills millions of people, literally. Do we blame it on Lord Jesus Christ?
There's a new bumper sticker out. It said, "Who would Jesus Christ bomb?"
Yeah, in other words, you can do anything in the name of someone, but that doesn't mean that you have to blame that person because someone did it in your name. If you make a deal with your father, that my dear father, I'm going to rob some banks and kill some people, and if the police come and arrest me, please accept that you'll take my place and get the reaction. Then you go out and rob some people and kill some people, and the police come and arrest you, and you say, wait a second, I made a deal with my father, he's going to take all the blame. So the police are going to say, oh, that sounds good. We'll transfer it all to your father. You get the blame. You're the one who's responsible. But yakshastra vidim usrija vartate kamakarata sasidim avapnoti nasukamna paramgiti. That one who doesn't follow the revealed scriptures works whimsically and get neither peace nor happiness nor the supreme destination. So, tasmat shastram pramanam te karya karya vivastita yatva shastri vidanokta karma kartam iharase. One should know what is duty and what is not duty by the revealed scriptures. And knowing the revealed scriptures, what one's duty is, one should act so we can gradually become purified. So where does it say in any of the scriptures that you should do anything like that? And how these people become purified by doing it? And if not, then they're just rogues. They should be arrested because they're disobeying the orders of God, the laws of the scripture, but they're imposters. Kali also dressed as the king and was beating on a cow. Krishna Maharaj didn't accept it. He was going to kill him immediately. So even if the laws of the state do not chastise these people, Yamaraj will.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna, for a nice class. The question, they said, Maharaj, the Shastra said that one day of Brahma, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appear, Nityananda Prabhu appear. It's a really rare opportunity for a living entity to receive Krishna Prem. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared as a poor Brahman boy. That time where was people, name of religious, but doing all irreligiosity. So, and when Krishna appeared with so much opulence, so it is easy to preach people who are Krishna, Supreme Personality Godhead. He, Battle of Kurukshetra, he inspired Arjuna to fight. And he killed so many demons as when he was a baby. So it's very easy to preach people, or generally people get attracted to Krishna, because of Krishna is powerful, Supreme Personality God is really powerful. But when he came, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu preached about glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That time, this Mahaprabhu didn't exhibit that much opulence as a poor Brahman boy.
Oh.
Nityananda Prabhu was born.
What's the question?
Now my question is, how will really preach the people? This Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Supreme Personality Godhead, and he came to give rare.
I know, Krishna was not born in such good circumstances either. His parents were in the jail. They were, I guess, according to Kamsa, they were criminals. So Krishna was born to some criminals in a jail. And then he escaped from the jail, and then he was put into a village. And he didn't even own one cow there. So he wasn't really so opulent at the beginning of his life. And as soon as he was born, practically speaking, people came and tried to kill him. He had a very disturbing childhood. And then as soon as he grew up a little bit, then he started to steal. Such a disturbing childhood. And while he was killing animals in the forest and stealing, then as soon as he got a little older, he started to chase after all the girls there. And finally they caught up with him and took him to the village, into the city, trying to chastise him, but he killed everyone there too. Then finally they were trying to catch up with him, and then he fled into the ocean. Tried to get some protection there, but later on, all his relatives went crazy, got drunk, and killed each other. So in one sense, people can look at Krishna's life in many different ways. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, why should we say he was poor? We never hear of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu starving. He always had the best food. He had clean air, fresh food, fresh water, wonderful associates.
But he born as a cushion hut in Mayapur.
That's very good. Everything there in Mayapur is beautiful air and fresh water and clean, that's material opulence. You mean born in a city where you can't, you light a match and the match explodes because of the quality of the air. In some parts, you turn on the tap, all kinds of living entities come out of the faucet. And you walk down the street, besides the noise, you're afraid that, looking around the corner, someone may come out and rob you of the 30 cents you have to go and buy some milk. Someone may rob you on the way down there. So what kind of opulence is this? All this plastic and steel and contaminated air and contaminated water. It's just some imagination. It's opulence. Where is the opulence in modern society? What is the opulence? You can turn on television and watch how other people are suffering like you are, so you can feel better. I'm suffering here, but when I turn on television, I get enlivened because I see how everyone else is suffering worse than I am. Therefore, I think I'm a good person because I'm suffering less than everyone else in the world. And practically speaking, most of our suffering that they're experiencing is so that I can turn on television and watch them suffer. So in modern society, there's hardly any real opulence. It's just imagination. They don't know what opulence is. They don't know what wealth is. They have a piece of paper that says $100, but it's just a piece of paper. Some countries, you can't even burn it for heat. It's made out of plastic. And now it's worth $100, but in 2 weeks it could be worth nothing. So that's not opulence, it's just imagination. The only thing that's developed in modern civilization is people's false ego. Everything else has gone down. Because they say, Tatas chanudinam dharma satyam shema daya shama valena kalira rajan nakshantya yor balam smriti. Day after day in Kali Yuga, the principles of real religion will go down. And instead, satyam, truthfulness, socham, cleanliness, dhamma, sense and mind control, shema, forgiveness, kalena balira rajan, by the strong force of Kali Yuga, memory and longevity, bodily strength, they'll all diminish day after day. Real opulence will go down day after day. Because people's pride is going up. Nothing else is really improving. False prestige. Yeah. Humility? Well, when we see how great Krishna is, when we see how great Krishna's devotees are, we'll think ourselves insignificant. So unless we realize how wonderful and unlimited Krishna is, then we'll always think ourselves to be relatively important. When we see how unimportant we are compared to Krishna, then we'll become humble. So without becoming Krishna conscious, no one can really become humble. Without being Krishna conscious, we can't actually be humble. Granthara Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Bol.